Within the past few weeks, we've seen a handful of events at home and in different parts of the world that could push food prices up and also make certain items harder to find. And unfortunately, a lot of what we're going through probably isn't going to settle down anytime soon. Then, on top of that, we're heading into a time of the year where this kind of thing tends to get worse, not better. The best thing that we can all do right now is just try to get ahead of it. Today, I'm going to go over the specific foods that we should all be picking up over the next few weeks, along with why each one could have either price or availability issues soon. Many of these are essential parts of what we should all be using as the foundation of our prepper pantry, and I'll also give y'all an idea of how I'd use them to get through the first month of a long-term disaster. Most folks don't realize that trouble at the grocery store doesn't really start there. It starts in other places like the fields where the crop is grown, in the fertilizer and fuel markets, and in shipping lanes on the other side of the world. By the time that we feel the effects, whatever caused them could have happened months ago, and that's why we need to start preparing now. Lately, we've seen several warning signs happening simultaneously. First, there's fuel and shipping. The price and availability of diesel fuel affects pretty much every step of food production and distribution. It fuels the tractors and other farm equipment that plant and harvest crops. It's used in large fishing boats, along with the trucks and ships that transport food and other items. So when diesel fuel gets more expensive, everything else does too. And a big reason for the uncertainty with diesel fuel is the ongoing war in Iran, specifically the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a major choke point for the world's oil supply, and it's been mostly closed off since late February. Peace talks have been off and on, and nothing is settled yet. Even if a deal is signed, though, we could still feel the ripple effects of what's already happened for months afterward. Then there's fertilizer. The production processes used to make fertilizer are tied very closely to those used to produce fuel, so if diesel prices are up, fertilizer probably will be too. And if farmers can't afford to put down what they normally would, that's not something that you're going to notice right away. You could see it months later in the form of things like lower yields, lower produce quality, or higher prices. Then there's the weather. NOAA had an El Nino watch up for a while, but now they've declared that El Nino has formed, and they've put out what they call an El Nino advisory. Weather from that will impact a lot of the parts of the world that we depend on for imported staples like rice, sugar, wheat, palm oil, and coffee. And you can already see this happening if you look at the numbers. While the UN's food price index did hold steady in May, that average hides what's going on under the surface. Sugar jumped about 7.5% in a single month, which was its highest level since last fall. The people who track this said that a big reason for that jump was fear of El Nino affecting production in India and Thailand. Then, wheat prices have been climbing for 4 months in a row, so the pressure is already there. It just hasn't reached every shelf yet. But the first food that we should be buying before July is imported rice, specifically jasmine and basmati. A big portion of the world's rice comes from South and Southeast Asia, and that's right where El Nino tends to affect rainfall. In India, the monsoon showed up late this year, and forecasts are calling for a below normal season. The monsoon delivers most of India's rainfall, and it's what their rice, sugarcane, and a bunch of other crops depend on. And when an exporting country has a weak year, many times they protect their own supply first, which means that less goes out to other countries. Rice prices have already been going up based on those worries, but for preppers, rice is incredibly important. It's the cheapest calories that you can store, and jasmine or basmati rice can make meals taste a lot better. They also store just as long as regular long-grain white rice, and they can help stretch out canned meat, beans, soup, and canned fish. So I'd go ahead and pick up some larger bags of jasmine and basmati rice if your family eats it, along with a few instant rice cups for the days where either you just don't feel like cooking or when boiling water isn't feasible for some reason or another. After that, we have canned fish. That includes tuna, sardines, mackerel, and salmon. These are incredibly important since they're relatively inexpensive, shelf-stable protein sources that you can eat without cooking. And that could be a big deal during power outages when cooking could draw unwanted attention to you. Unfortunately, though, these are facing pressure from several directions. Around 80% of the seafood that we eat in the U.S. comes from overseas. Like, we imported around 6.3 billion pounds of it in 2022. 2023. And since seafood tends to be imported, it's vulnerable to things like fluctuations in fuel and shipping costs. Then the cans that they're stored in can be an issue too, and I'll get more into that here in a minute. But for us preppers, canned fish is one of the best no-cook protein sources that you can have. Sardines and mackerel usually give you more nutrition per dollar than tuna, although if we're being honest, most folks will probably prefer the taste of tuna. Then the pouches work well in things like get home bags and other kits since they're shelf stable and lightweight. And another thing that people don't realize is that buying food is the easy part. It's easy to watch a video like this one, go grab a bunch of stuff, set it on a shelf, and feel like that you're taken care of. But a stack of cans and bags of rice is not the same thing as a plan. Most folks never really work out how everything fits together into actual meals or how long that food would realistically last. And with prices where they are now, it's gotten a lot harder to build a useful pantry. So a while back, I built something to fix that. It's called the Prepper's $150 Food Pantry. It shows exactly how to build a 30-day food supply for one person using cheap foods that you can pick up at any local grocery store. Most of the time, you just hear people say things like, buy a bunch of beans and rice, but this system is very different. It has 3 video modules that show how to use the plan, what you need to know about water and fuel, and how to adjust the plan for food allergies and other sensitivities. It also includes all of the different downloadable documents that you'll need to use the plan off-grid. There's a complete shopping list that shows you exactly what to buy and how much, along with a rotating meal calendar and recipe guide that'll help you ensure that your food supply lasts for the entire month. The course covers everything: what you need, how to prepare it, fuel and water amounts, and real ways to make the plan work for you. I've seen all sorts of food plan videos and books, and this was designed to be a massive improvement on all of them. It'll save you a ton of time, money, and effort. And right now, you can get the Prepper's $150 food pantry for just $37. And as a special thank you, I'll also throw in my home-based off-grid cooking methods guide for free. But that is an introductory price, and it ends at midnight Central Time on Saturday, June 20th. After that, the price goes up and the $37 deal is gone, so be sure to do this ASAP. You can get yours today using the links in the description and the pinned comment down below. But moving on, the next food that we should buy before July is sugar, and there's a little more to that than what you may think. There's a lot of different types of it, including regular white sugar, brown sugar, canning sugar, and even drink mixes. Like I mentioned earlier, prices jumped because of El Nino worries in India and Thailand, but to make things worse, India's prohibited sugar exports through the end of September. And when the second largest producer in the world does that, then everyone else is going to feel it. The good news, though, is that sugar is one of the easiest things to store. If you keep it sealed up and dry in a Mylar bag, it'll last pretty much forever. It's also cheaper than many other staples, and it's useful for canning, baking, and for keeping morale up. So I'd go ahead and get a couple of 10-pound bags of white sugar for storage purposes, along with maybe some brown sugar to use and rotate regularly. And if you use them, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and pick up a few canisters of drink mix too. Then after that, we have tomato products. That can include diced tomatoes, paste, pasta and pizza sauce, and Rotel. And what's interesting about this one is that it isn't the food that's the problem, it's the can. Most of the canned foods that are under pressure right now aren't having crop issues. They're under pressure because of what they're packaged in. Steel, aluminum, and tin plate have all gotten more expensive, and that cost transfers to anything that ships in a can or jar. The can itself is about a third of what a can of vegetable costs at wholesale, so when steel goes up, the price that we see follows right along with it. On top of that, tomato products are heavy, so freight charges hit them harder than they do some other items. That means that we could have a great tomato crop, but still see prices go up. And tomato products are very important to preppers since they're basically a pantry multiplier. A little tomato paste can help turn rice and beans into an actual meal. Pasta sauce is very easy to rotate, and Rotel can give things like eggs, soups, and skillet meals a lot more flavor. So I go ahead and pick up some cans of tomato paste, sauces, and a few cans of Rotel at a minimum. Then the next thing we should buy before July is wheat products, and that can mean different things too. Pasta, ramen bricks, and flour all fit in this category. Prices on wheat have been climbing for 4 months straight, and the winter crop here in the U.S. is one of the worst that we've seen in decades. Forecasters are also predicting that global grain production will come down a couple of percent in the coming year, with wheat taking the biggest hit. On top of that, things like ramen and instant noodles also depend on palm oil. Now, palm oil actually eased a little last month along with other cooking oils, but it's tied closely to the biofuel market and energy costs, so it tends to climb right back up when fuel does. For preppers, these foods are cheap, familiar, and fast. If you eat them, I'd go ahead and pick up a few cases of ramen, some noodle cups, and a few boxes of pasta. You can stretch any of those out with things like canned chicken, tuna, or just a little hot sauce. After that, we have cooking oil. That could be vegetable or canola oil for everyday use, while other families prefer other things like olive oil and ghee. Now, oil was actually one of the few things that came down a little, but it's still tied to several different pressure points. And the reason why I'm including it in this list is that realistically, most folks store a lot less fat than what they need. Oil is calorie dense and can make rice, beans, and pasta easier to cook and a lot more filling. One big issue with cooking oils, though, is that they don't store nearly as long as staples like dried beans and rice. So, because of that, it's a good idea to store smaller bottles and rotate through them. Also, keep the bottles somewhere cool and dark to help them last a little longer. Another thing preppers may want to stockpile before July is coffee. Even though it's not like a survival food, a lot of folks do drink it every day and depend on it as a daily comfort item. Coffee is imported, weather sensitive, and has been experiencing pressure for a couple of years. Now, thankfully, Brazil's crop is looking better, so we may actually be in a bit of a decent buying window right now. That being said, though, this upcoming weather cycle could cause some issues, so prices may not stay low forever. It's not a bad idea to have a decent stash of whatever you drink daily to rotate through, along with a little bit of instant coffee stored in Mylar bags. Instant coffee can last for decades if you store it properly, so it makes a very good long-term backup. Then finally we have morale food, specifically cocoa and canned fruit. Cocoa powder and hot cocoa mix are a good choice for preppers since they store a lot better than chocolate bars. They're great for keeping spirits up and can make a very big difference if you have kids or grandkids. However, cocoa has been under pressure from weather problems in West Africa where most of it's grown, so that's an issue. After that, we have canned fruit that can include pineapples, mandarin oranges, fruit cocktail, and peaches. These are great no-cook snacks that can add some variety and taste to your pantry. And like cocoa, they're very good to have on hand if you have little ones. But even for adults, they can go a long ways towards preventing food fatigue and helping you stay sane. So when you step back and look at all this mess together, the big threat isn't the shelves going empty overnight. It's the stuff that's imported, weather sensitive, or expensive to package, quietly becoming more expensive before most people catch on. And as always, don't go out and panic buy. We're not even anywhere near that point anyway. Pick up what you actually use and rotate it. And really, that's the whole point of being a prepper. We take care of stuff early on so we don't have to lose our mess later on, and we also help reduce strain on the system when bigger problems do show up. Now, if you want to see the foods that I would prioritize to get through the first month after a disaster, then be sure to pick up the Prepper's $150 food pantry using the links in the description and the pinned comment below. But if you want to see how to stay cool during summer blackouts, which we could have some coming up here in the next couple months, then click here. Or if you want to see 13 items that FEMA wants its employees to have that it doesn't tell the rest of us normies about, then click here. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.